So today we have with us Terra Traub, who's been on an amazing journey in the past year that she's going to share with us a little bit. And actually, I'll let you introduce yourself because you have quite a few titles to your name of things that you have done and that you are currently doing. So Terra, will you tell us what you're up to and what brought you to this day?
Cool. Oops. My name is Terra. I retired from professional snowboarding last year, and right now I'm a life coach specializing in self-love, and I'm also creating a TV genre called transformation TV. It's kind of like reality TV, but one that gives people the medicine wrapped in cotton candy.
I like that description. So how did you go from Olympic snowboarder to love coach, essentially? Self-love coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I blew out my knee on the qualifying series while I was trying to qualify for the games. And this was the second time doing it, and I blew it out just a month or two too late to continue qualifying. And over the past 10 years, my one big goal was to get to the Olympics, because that was where, and I didn't realize this at the time, but that was where my worthiness and validation was living. So when that went away and my identity shifted from snowboarder, from possibly being worthy and accepted and belonging one day, to having no option to do that, I fell into this hole and I had to dig myself out of that hole. Especially because I didn't know what I was going to do next. I spent like 10 years of my life being a snowboarder, and that's it. I left school for it. And so it's been a really big journey to dig myself out of that hole, and I've had a lot of support. And creating that shift in myself really inspired me to create that shift for other people, because the difference that I felt from back then to now, having focused solely on self-love this whole time, is just like there aren't even any words for it. I'm a different person. I see life differently. People see me differently, and I really don't care how they see me now. Well, on some level, you still care, but.
But what were the stages like from kind of the realization that you were hurt enough to not actually qualify to continue anymore? What were the stages that got you to who you are now?
There was a lot of denial. There was a lot of sticking my head in the sand. I'm like a pro ostrich. I like to avoid everything. And for honestly, the first month, my dad was very sweet. He came out and supported me. He was very scared of COVID at the time, so he had to wear like a bunny suit, just to be around me with the window open.
You were in hospital.
I was in hospital, and I had to get both of my knees operated on to take patella for my ACL, because the first time I already took patella out of that knee. So it was really rough, and I got lost in just taking it step by step, PT or step by step with PT, taking the pain meds and, the process. So I've had 7 surgeries actually in 7 years. So I'm very familiar with the rehab process, and I was able to tune it out. When I moved, I went through a kind of denial phase. I was very stubborn about not wanting to figure out what I want to do next. And that created a lot of pain. And then instead of focusing on what I want, I focused a lot on what I don't want to feel. And then through a lot of that pain that built up, finally I had to come to a point where I was like, okay, this is enough. I gotta do something. I gotta actually do the work that my life coach has been telling me to do. And so he helped me guide through that process, and there were a lot of plateaus. But there was a lot of magic, there's a lot of magic.
And what did you learn about yourself while you were going through that process?
Well, one thing actually I learned that is kind of relevant to what I was going to share today about is that, I've been very deep in my masculine energy for all of my life. I'm very good, very, very good at laser focus, at iron will and discipline. about pushing harder than anyone else in my life, unless I was up against the Japanese, because they like ran me into the ground when I went to train with them. And I realized that those things that I was so proud of myself, like that got me so far, could only get me so far, because I was not tuned into like myself. I was not open to receiving, and I was not creating the awareness to get the lesson. I was not flexible for anything that might be a redirection and not meaning that I'm a failure. And I was not in flow. So these were all lessons that I had to learn, and that I got to learn when I moved to San Diego, and I got to put down some roots and buy a beautiful bed. I expanded my wardrobe to more than 3 outfits because I was on the road for 10 years. Got my nails done, and I love it. I love being a girl.
Wow. You had that stark contrast of getting into your feminine full time, essentially. You were focused on self-love.
Yes.
Now for how long?
For about a year, actually. I celebrated my rebirth day, which is the day I blew out my knee in March. And yeah, since then it's been this epic journey, and I did my values, on this journey, and my top value is self-care and self-nurture, and that really aligns with diving into this feminine energy, and I realized that like I can't move forward in the way that I want to move forward, and helping to heal the world and heal myself and creating a vessel to really heal the world without owning and loving who I am. And that only came for me when I started to embrace like the feminine.
Mm-hmm. So what did that look like when you were kind of discovering and delving into that side of yourself? And how are you bringing that into what you're doing now?
What did it look like? I touched on it a little bit. There's a lot of like, I did a little bit of shopping. I expanded my social life, because before I was so focused on pushing harder than everyone else, because I had to catch up, right? Because I started riding when I was 18, when everyone else, all the other girls were learning how to podium while I was learning to link my turns. And so I always had this, like, I had to push. So in doing that, I sacrificed the social life. I said no boyfriends until after my career, and really regretted it. And I didn't stay up late to go to the bars, so because I wanted to be in peak performance the next day, so I had a lot of FOMO. So one of the things that it looked like was I spent 6 weeks actually in October, November, where like every other day I went to a show, and then I went to EDC and crashed. It was a rave, and I basically fit in all the things I had FOMO about in the span of 6 weeks, and then crashed hard. And then I learned another lesson that it's not fun to do these things when you're tired.
True.
So it's a lot of it is like I'm also allowing, like, using pleasure as my compass, pleasure in eating, conscious eating. I used to be very restrictive with my eating, only eating what was good, like protein and like the best things for you. And I realized like I love chocolate, and I'm allowing myself to have some chocolate. I'm actually a big foodie, which I didn't know before because I had suppressed all of that. So a lot of it has looked like me allowing, and in that allowance, discovering who I was, and then also discovering that there's a balance, knowing, because I've been so restrictive, I have a tendency to binge and then, not going that way, but also not binging and then restricting. So just letting the pendulum swing back and being okay with it, being okay with my body changing, being okay with all of it. And that's part of what I want to bring to the world, is like, I want people to know that it's okay, and know that it's okay to love what they love and not be judged for it, because that judgment comes from yourself.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy you said all that. The word pleasure, I think, is something that's become somewhat of a dirty word. I'm not sure if this is true in all cultures, but definitely in the Western culture, there's kind of been this, decadent kind of shameful thing about chasing pleasure, going after pleasure. I think it's a feminine superpower, actually.
Oh my God,
that
yes.
men should definitely, that men can definitely also, enjoy in their lives. It's just that it's also the French side, the beauty of just being alive and enjoying this everything, the food, the company, the day.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because I have this thing where one of my friends asked me like, how do you choose between like peace and pleasure, And I think that they're one and the same. Like, I don't think pleasure is so taboo, Like, you have to be in peace to experience pleasure. You have to not be, running from these needs or like these fears in order to be present enough to feel pleasure. And pleasure doesn't just mean like sex, it doesn't. Pleasure is like eating. It's like, there's pleasure in suffering. Actually, I went to a retreat in Mexico, a woman rewilding retreat, and I hate heat, like hate. And I was walking back, it was so hot out, and I just took a shower, I was sweating, and I was about to faint, and I was like, wow, there's really pleasure in this suffering, because I know that in 5 minutes I was gonna hop into the shower and that's gonna feel like orgasmic, and it was just like the heat. Even though I hated it, it was like I felt so much pleasure in hating it. There's pleasure in hate. There's pleasure in everything, you guys. There's pleasure in sitting down and just laughing here with you. And I think chasing that pleasure is like, it's my north star right now. It's my compass. And I think if everyone chased their pleasure, people would be so pure. There's not. Yeah.
If I'm to translate what you've just said into kind of my own language, it's departing from what's become so dead in our society and so lifeless into filling ourselves with life again.
Yes.
And just enjoying, just being on this planet embodied within ourselves.
Absolutely. Pleasure is, you can get pleasure just like sitting here, right? I think pleasure is the ultimate presence, because you can't feel pleasure without being present. And when you're present and you're in pleasure, you're feeling gratitude and you're growing. And you're in your feminine, you're in your superpower.
Yeah. Wow. I hadn't thought about that before. Thank you. That's so true. So enjoying this presence of all of us here today and the gratitude of communing with you all, taking a moment to soak it in. So Terra, one last question from me, unless there's other questions from the audience. But I want to know about this transformational television. Like, what's the inspiration behind that? What is the big dream?
Okay. So I've always been like a super hard worker, right? Push. And in that process of trying to become the 1% of whatever field I was in, I learned that doing like self-work was part of it, and doing the high performance work was part of it. And then, especially coming out of my snowboard journey and transitioning, I was like, okay, like how do I create something that allows me to travel, because that's one of my passions, and then that allows me to uplift myself and uplift other people. How do I incorporate music? Because I'm actually still going to school for music, and I'm the longest standing student, I think, at Berklee, because I started in 2012. It was like 11 years later. And yeah, I wanted to create something that brought everything together. And so I want to create like this gamified music television show. Like, think like Survivor meets The Voice. And then you add in transformation work from retreats like Vortex or Mind Valley, or conferences like Summit at Sea. Or Tony Robbins meets Oprah, depending on what your crowd is. And then you add in the spice of culture and exotic locations, and really tuning into like the lives of the people who live there, and their music, obviously. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm super excited about it, because it's like, I think that the world is ready for it. the personal development industry is exploding, especially at COVID. I think a lot of people did a lot of work in COVID. They had to. And coming out of COVID, a lot of people are seeing your darkness. So I think people are ready to get the medicine wrapped in cotton candy, and I want to be the one to bring it to them.
I think you're right there. We just had Rasmus share yesterday about the heart resonance and how we are all music. Our hearts are producing music all the time. It's just a matter of tuning into each other, resonating at similar frequencies, making that frequency contagious so that we're all resonating together. I think music has a huge part in who we are, how we communicate our emotions. So I'm glad you're doing that. And if you need any help, or if anyone wants to support that amazing project, I know that you've got a great team already, but I'll tell them to reach out to Terra Traub. But where can they find you currently?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok, though.
Is it a snowboarding account, or is it?
No, my Instagram got hacked 2 days ago. So
good timing.
Yeah, but it's my name, and I'm in the process of getting it back. But if you follow me and get any suspicious notes, don't follow the instructions.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can
find you there.
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok are my bigger platforms right now.
We can follow your progress along your creation.
Absolutely, and reach out to me, and then we can connect. I would love to chat.
What's your email address?
TerraTraub@gmail.com.
It's gonna be out there. We're putting this on internet, right?
Epic.
Okay. We won't cut it out. Thank you, Terra.
Thank you.